They lied to you the moment you could walk. They told you to try harder, be early, stay late, prove your worth. And so you did, until exhaustion became your identity and silence your reward. But the powerful, they never played by those rules. They never believed in hard work. They believed in control, in silence, in letting others burn while they stayed untouched. Machiavelli knew, the ones who rule don't sweat. They move, quietly, strategically. And by the time you realize it, you're already working for them. You were never meant to win by working hard. That lie wasn't made for your success. It was made for your obedience. Look around. The world does not reward the tireless. It rewards the tactician, the politician, the strategist who knows when to be seen and when to vanish. Machiavelli lived in a world ruled by blood, betrayal, and quiet power. And even then, centuries ago, he saw it clearly. Effort is not power. Power is what uses effort. The myth of hard work was born not from truth, but from necessity. Empires needed builders. Rulers needed hands. So they told the lower ranks to believe in merit. They crafted stories of saints, heroes, and self-made men figures who toiled endlessly and were supposedly lifted to greatness. But that greatness was rarely real. And when it was, it came not from how hard they worked, but who they knew, how they moved, what they controlled. Machiavelli watched kings kneel to priests, dukes fall to whispers, generals rot in exile, while soft-spoken advisors rewrote history with a glance. The ones who worked hardest were always first to die, first to fall. The more visible your labor, the more disposable you become. The real game is not about being needed. It's about being untouchable. This is why Machiavelli despised idealism. He understood what most still refuse to admit, that power is not earned through virtue or effort. It's constructed through silence, fear, and the illusion of competence. The worker believes they are climbing, but the ladder was never theirs. It moves when it needs them, and disappears when they ask why. That is the lie, that working harder makes you safer, that burning yourself down will light your path. But Machiavelli never played with fire. He studied who built the flame, who stood behind it, and how to walk through it without ever being burned. You don't rise by running faster. You rise by stepping sideways when no one's watching. And once you see the machinery behind the myth, once you stop believing that struggle makes you holy, you finally become dangerous. Because now you know, the lie was never yours to carry. It was theirs to protect. Until now. The world praises your effort only when it profits from it. From the moment you're old enough to work, you're told to push, grind, hustle because it builds character, because it's honorable. But Machiavelli would ask, honorable to whom? When you bleed for a system that replaces you the second you falter, what exactly are you building? The truth is ugly. The truth is this: the ones who demand your hard work are never the ones doing it. They are the ones watching, counting, measuring how much they can extract from your time, your loyalty, your silence. Machiavelli saw labor for what it was, an illusion of progress sold to the masses to keep them compliant. In his world, peasants ploughed land they didn't own. Soldiers died in battles for causes they never chose. And the elite? They strategized, made alliances in candlelit halls, and watched kingdoms fall without lifting a blade. That pattern never ended. It only got more polite. Today, the tools are softer. Performance reviews, deadlines, motivational posters. But the result is the same. People working themselves hollow while the powerful remain untouched. And the more you prove yourself, the deeper you sink into the very system that needs you to stay predictable. Hard work is not a ladder, it's a leash, one they designed to look like a crown. Machiavelli understood that true power never begs to be noticed. It never races. It pulls strings while others run themselves ragged. The illusion is what keeps you moving, believing that if you just work a little harder, they'll finally see you, promote you, respect you. But they won't, because your value isn't measured by your effort, it's measured by how replaceable you are. And nothing is more replaceable than the hardest worker in the room, the one who never says no, the one who never stops. That's who burns out first. That's who dies forgotten. But the person who sees the game, who watches instead of races, who speaks less and studies more, that person becomes untouchable. Machiavelli knew the secret wasn't improving your worth. It was in making others prove theirs to you. Flip the roles. Stop chasing. Start observing. Stop serving. Start calculating. Because if you want to live like the rulers do, you have to think like they think. And that begins by asking a question they never want you to ask. Who is really profiting from all your effort? The moment you ask that, the mask starts to crack. And once it does, you will never be their worker again. You will become something else, something they fear, something that doesn't sweat, only watches, only waits, only wins. They told you that if you work hard enough, long enough, the world will eventually reward you. That success is something you earn. But Machiavelli knew better. He knew that the world does not reward effort, it rewards positioning. It rewards those who control perception, who control access, who understand how to move without friction. The belief that success is something you earn with sheer sweat is the illusion that keeps entire systems afloat. It keeps the average man occupied, keeps him chasing, keeps him tired, and most importantly, keeps him predictable. But Machiavelli saw what happened behind the curtains. He watched men with no brilliance climb to influence simply because they understood proximity. They stood beside power, not beneath it. They whispered instead of shouted. They chose moments instead of movements. And because of that, they rose not by effort, but by precision. You have been taught that to earn something means to deserve it. But the powerful do not operate on what is deserved. They operate on what they can take, what they can shape, what they can make others believe they are owed. The self-made man is a myth, a story sold to the laborer to make him believe he has control. But Machiavelli would tell you, no one is self-made. They are system-made, connection-made, opportunity-made. No amount of sweat unlocks a room you're not allowed to enter, and no amount of loyalty gets you invited to a table that was never built for you. The lie is elegant because it flatters the ego. It tells you that your rise is in your hands, that if you keep your head down and push forward, you will eventually break through. But the truth is, the door doesn't open from your side, and Machiavelli didn't waste time knocking. He studied the builder, befriended the key holder, or made himself the lock. That is the real game, not to work harder, but to stop playing the worker. To understand that being good at what you do is not enough if no one powerful believes it benefits them. Power moves through circles, not resumes, through whispers, not effort. And if you want to stop being invisible, you must first stop being busy. Step back, rethink the myth, because every time you tell yourself that working hard will eventually be enough, you reinforce the lie they built to keep you running in place. You're not here to be exhausted. You're here to become unignorable, not by burning out, but by becoming untouchable. Not by earning success, but by making success orbit you. Machiavelli never waited to be chosen. He rewrote the rules, then made others play by them. So should you. They say, if you work hard enough, you'll be rewarded. But what they don't say is what that reward actually island. It's not power. It's not freedom. It's obedience. That's what effort buys you in a system designed to keep you beneath the surface. Praise, not control. Security, not sovereignty. Machiavelli knew the truth. He saw how the world pacifies the labourer with applause while handing real influence to those who barely lifted a finger. Because the more you give, the easier you are to keep. The harder you work, the more you fear losing it all. And once you fear loss, they own you. Look at history. Kings did not dig trenches. Generals did not march first. And rulers never begged for respect. They took it, not with brute force, but with understanding of perception, timing, and leverage. Meanwhile, the man who sacrifices, who offers everything, is told he is noble, that his suffering is a sign of strength, that one day his time will come. But it doesn't, because the game was never about deserving, it was about deciding. And the more you grind, the less you question. The more exhausted you are, the less you think. It's strategic, keeping you too tired to rebel, too desperate to refuse. Machiavelli warned against this trap. He knew that obedience disguised as opportunity is the most dangerous kind of control. It makes you feel grateful for change you can't see. And the scariest part is how willingly people accept it, how they defend it, how they judge those who choose silence over sacrifice. But power doesn't come to those who give everything. It comes to those who know what not to give, those who hold back, who remain still, who understand that in a world obsessed with showing effort, invisibility is a weapon. If they can see how hard you're working, they know exactly where to press, how to manipulate, how to drain you. But if you move like smoke, appearing only when it matters, acting only when it pays, then they can't control you. You're not a piece. You're the player. That's the reward you should be chasing. Not applause, not overtime, not loyalty points from people who see you as replaceable, but power that cannot be taken because you never gave it away. That's what Machiavelli understood, that your effort should be a weapon, not a leash. Something you choose, not something they expect. The world does not reward exhaustion, it exploits it. So if you're tired, good. Let that tiredness wake you up, because the reward they're offering is a cage. And the key? It's already in your hand. You just have to stop believing the lie that put it there. When the powerful speak of hard work, they speak of it like a sermon, something sacred, something noble, something everyone should strive for. But notice this. They speak of it, they praise it, they demand it, yet they never actually do it. Machiavelli saw this pattern long before modern corporations wore suits and ties. Back then, it was kings, dukes, and clergy. Today, it's CEOs, politicians, and polished mentors. But the playbook hasn't changed. The elite glorify struggle because it keeps the lower ranks occupied, distracted, believing in a future that never arrives. Hard work is marketed like a drug, addictive, blinding, and sold with promises that rot before they ripen. But those who rule, they don't grind, they orchestrate, they let others burn while they remain untouched, pulling strings with calm fingers. Machiavelli didn't admire labor, he admired manipulation. He respected the man who did less and gained more, the man who knew that when you give the masses a myth, you never have to give them the truth. That's what the praise of hard work really is. A myth. One that makes people proud of their own exhaustion. It's not that the powerful want you to fail. They just don't want you to notice. that the ladder they told you to climb doesn't reach their floor. It never did. It wasn't built for that. It was built to keep you climbing forever. And the higher you go, the more you sacrifice. Time, health, sanity, relationships. But no matter how far you get, they're always just a little higher. Because the game is not about arrival, it's about distraction. Machiavelli watched leaders elevate the illusion. They made the poor believe they were close, almost there, just a little more effort. But that effort was a trap. It kept their heads down, kept their questions quiet, and most of all, it kept them manageable. Because when people believe the struggle is noble, they stop looking for a way out. They wear their suffering like a badge. They defend it, even die for it. That's why the ones who praise hard work the loudest are often the ones who benefit from it the most. And that's the trick. They don't need to oppress you. They just need you to agree with your place. Machiavelli knew that silence from the top was not ignorance, it was strategy. Applaud the workers, feed their pride, and they'll keep building the very system that cages them. You want freedom? Don't ask for it. Don't work for it. Study who truly has it. And when you do, you'll see the truth. They never worshipped work. They worshipped control. And they never told you, because the second you know that you're no longer useful, you're dangerous. Power does not belong to the one who works the hardest. It belongs to the one who owns what others work on. That is the cruel, elegant truth Machiavelli never looked away from. He saw that those who sweat rarely rule, and those who rule rarely sweat. Ownership is the throne, and effort is the chain tied to its base. You were taught to trade hours for money, that if you labor long enough, someone will notice. But Machiavelli understood that being noticed is not the goal being needed island, not for your time, but for your position, for your control. The man who owns the land earns while he sleeps. The man who ploughs it wakes before the sun and dies with dirt in his lungs. And still the world praises the one who wakes early and toils. Why? Because the system needs that man to stay proud of his own limitations. If he ever realizes that his effort is feeding someone else's dynasty, he becomes a threat. So they hand him praise, promotions, hollow titles. Just enough illusion to keep him from asking the one question that unravels the entire lie. Why am I still working for someone else's dream? Machiavelli never wanted to be celebrated. He wanted to be irreplaceable. And to be irreplaceable, you must detach from effort and attach yourself to structure. Systems, property, networks, anything that moves with or without you, anything that feeds while you sleep. Because ownership doesn't just generate wealth, it generates time, influence, and silence. It lets you observe while others scramble. It gives you the power to say no, the power to disappear, and most of all, the power to make others move while you do nothing at all. Machiavelli believed in control not through force, but through design. He knew the true ruler is never the loudest, never the busiest. He's the one who has others doing his bidding while he watches the game unfold. This is why the wealthy teach hard work to the poor, but teach ownership to their children, because they know the difference. They know that labor is survival, but ownership is empire. And as long as you stay on the wrong side of that line, you are useful, but never dangerous. So ask yourself, what do you own that earns for you? What can move without your hands? Because until you answer that, you are not free. You are rented. Machiavelli never begged for power, he positioned himself to inherit it. And the moment you do the same, the rules change. Not for them. For you. You stop sweating. You start moving. And when they wonder how you rose without effort, let them, because that's when you know you've left the lie behind. And now you are finally playing the real game. In a world obsessed with visibility, the most powerful move in silence. While the crowd competes to be seen, the rulers study shadows. They do not shout. They signal. They do not chase. They attract. Machiavelli understood that attention is a weapon, but only when you control the timing. Too early, and you invite resistance. Too loud, and you attract enemies before you're ready. But the silent player, he builds, while others brag. He watches while others waste. And when he finally moves, it's too late for anyone to stop him. This is the art of strategic invisibility, of appearing only when it counts. In a society that teaches you to always be active, always be loud, always be busy, choosing to disappear becomes an act of rebellion. They want you exhausted, predictable, always explaining yourself. But the moment you become unreadable, you become powerful, because no one can strike what they cannot locate. Silence is not weakness, it's positioning. It makes people wonder. It makes them paranoid. And in that uncertainty, you gain the upper hand. Machiavelli didn't fear obscurity. He weaponized it. He knew that behind every loud downfall was a moment of exposure, someone who revealed too much, too soon. He never confused movement with progress. He understood that every step must be calculated, every action delayed until the benefit outweighs the risk. The silent player does not rush. He plants ideas in others' minds and lets them grow. He uses perception like currency and lets his enemies underestimate him. Because while they shout their plans, he studies their flaws. And when the time comes, he doesn't attack. He replaces, quietly, permanently. That is why the most dangerous man in the room is not the loudest. It's the one you forgot was there. The one who heard everything, said nothing, and remembered more than you think. If you want power, stop fighting to be visible. Stop proving. Stop defending. Start building in places no one can see. Start becoming the person whose silence unsettles others. Because when people begin to fear your absence more than your presence, you've already won. Machiavelli's law was never about domination. It was about patience. Wait, watch. Let others waste their energy showing off. Let them become addicted to applause. And when they burn out chasing visibility, you'll emerge fully formed, unstoppable, and already ahead. The world rewards spectacle, but it bows to strategy. So speak less, move smarter, and never forget. The most silent piece on the board is the king. Everything else is noise. Sacrifice is romantic. That's why they sell it to you. They tell you stories of heroes who gave everything, martyrs who died for causes, leaders who bled for their people. But Machiavelli saw the aftermath. He saw that those who sacrifice are remembered, but not for long, and never by the people who took everything from them. Because in the real world, sacrifice is not a currency of power. It's a trap. A beautiful, tragic illusion meant to keep you useful, predictable, and easy to replace. The more you give, the less they fear you. The more you suffer, the easier it is to control you. And once your usefulness expires, so does your value. That's why Machiavelli preferred strategy. Strategy does not ask for your blood. It demands your patience, your foresight, your ability to say no when others demand yes. Sacrifice is emotional. Strategy is surgical. The world doesn't need another person willing to die for their ideals. It needs someone willing to live for their advantage. Because power is not gained by those who bleed first. It's gained by those who know when to hold back, when to wait, when to let others charge forward into flames, while they remain still. Machiavelli never glorified suffering. He understood that survival is the foundation of power. You cannot rule from a grave. You cannot lead if you're constantly proving yourself through pain. That's the difference between the admired and the feared. The admired give until they disappear. The feared calculate their moves and remain. Every system in the world rewards those who serve quietly and die gracefully. But history is not shaped by those who sacrifice everything. It's shaped by those who know exactly what not to sacrifice. Your energy, your silence, your leverage. The strategic man does not offer himself freely. He makes himself rare. He does not burn for causes that do not feed him. He waits. He watches. And when the time is right, he acts with precision, not passion. Sacrifice may earn you applause, but applause does not last. Applause does not protect. Strategy does. So the next time they ask you to give more, ask yourself who benefits. And if the answer is not you, walk away. Because the real game isn't about who gives the most. It's about who survives long enough to decide what the game becomes. Machiavelli knew that the world is ruled by those who understand the cost of every move and refuse to bleed for anyone else's victory. Be that player. The one who never apologizes for staying intact. The one who rewrites the story, not dies in it. You were trained to trade your time. Every hour, every task, every drop of energy sold for a number on a paycheck. And if you're lucky, they'll tell you it's noble, that it's honest work, that you should be proud. But Machiavelli would laugh. Not because work is beneath you, but because trading time is the most expensive deal you'll ever make. It is the only currency you can never earn back. The poor trade hours. The powerful trade ideas, connections, information, influence, things that multiply without effort. Things that move even when they sleep. Time is finite. Leverage is not. That's why Machiavelli didn't waste his days proving his worth. He used each moment to gather leverage. Relationships that could shift alliances. Secrets that could destroy reputations. Quiet favors that could one day become weapons. He knew that real value doesn't come from showing up. It comes from being needed. From knowing something no one else knows. From seeing what no one else sees. When you trade time, you stay in motion but never move forward. When you trade leverage, you bend the world without lifting a finger. And the irony is, the world will always try to convince you otherwise. It will reward the man who's always available, who answers emails at midnight, who works weekends, because availability is control. If they have your time, they have your mind. But the second you stop offering your hours, they panic, because now you're not replaceable, you're not compliant, you're scarce, and scarcity is power. Machiavelli never begged for attention. He created gravity, the kind that made others come to him. Not because he was loud, but because he had what they wanted. And what he had, he never gave freely. That's the mindset you need. Not to be the hardest worker, but the rarest one. Not to trade more hours, but to build something that trades for you. A network, a system, an asset, a reputation that earns even in your absence. Because once you understand that time is the least valuable thing you own, you start protecting it. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing. You start asking better questions. Who benefits from this meeting? Who gains from this urgency? Who profits from my exhaustion? Machiavelli's power didn't come from what he did. It came from what he refused to do. He didn't chase. He positioned. And once you stop trading time and start trading leverage, you stop surviving and start controlling. They won't understand it at first. They'll say you've changed, that you're selfish, that you're difficult. Let them, because the moment they notice your absence more than your effort, you've already won. And from that point forward, you're not part of the machine. You're the one who decides when it stops. The smartest people in the room are rarely the busiest. They are the ones who've built something once and now let others carry it forward. While the crowd runs in circles, proving their value through effort, the powerful prove theirs through absence. Machiavelli knew this truth early. He saw that rulers do not rise by doing more, but by knowing who to make do it for them. Delegation was not laziness, it was design. And design is the blueprint of power. The lie you were told is that being hands-on makes you strong, that the best leader is the one in the trenches, but that is how they keep you small. Because as long as your hands are full, your mind is not free. And a full schedule is the perfect way to keep a dangerous man from realizing just how much of his life is being used by someone else. Machiavelli never rushed to be needed. He became the architect, the voice behind the throne, the one who wrote the rules while others died enforcing them. He understood the difference between useful and powerful. The useful man gets applause. The powerful man gets silence and results. So when he saw others laboring, proving themselves, building empires with their bare hands, he stayed still. Not because he was idle, but because he was patient. He knew that once the structure was built, he would own the blueprint. And the workers? They would disappear. That's how history treats the ones who work too hard. It forgets them. But it remembers the names on the deeds, the titles on the gates, the signatures on the laws. Power is never about doing everything. It's about deciding what matters, what pays, what lasts, and then handing everything else off to someone still chasing applause. If you want to rule your world, you have to let go of the need to touch every part of it. Let others manage. Let others build. Let others burn. Your job is to think, to see, to choose, because the man who does everything ends up owned by everything. But the man who delegates controls the rhythm of the world. He speaks once, and 10 others move. He lifts a hand, and doors open. Not because he's strong, but because he's rare. Because he understands that power expands when you let go of control, not when you cling to it. Machiavelli never competed with laborers. He recruited them, positioned them, directed them. And in doing so, he became the force behind the motion. So ask yourself, are you the one moving, or are you the one being moved? The answer determines whether you remain in the game or start designing it. The man who is always available is never truly respected. He may be liked, even praised, but he is not feared. And Machiavelli knew if they do not fear losing you, they will never value keeping you. Availability signals desperation. It says you have nothing more important than their attention, their approval, their permission. But the moment you become unreachable, everything changes. You shift from servant to mystery, from tool to asset. From convenience to authority, power does not shout. It does not wait by the phone. It does not reply instantly. Power creates space and forces others to step into it carefully. In a world addicted to immediacy, delay becomes dominance. Machiavelli understood this long before notifications, meetings, and messages cluttered every waking moment. He watched powerful men remain silent in public, absent from crowds, impossible to access because their presence meant something. Because when they finally spoke, the room listened, not out of politeness, but out of tension. That tension is a weapon. It makes people second-guess themselves. It makes them rehearse their words. It makes them wonder what you're thinking. And that wondering is control. The mistake most people make is thinking visibility equals value. that if they're always present, always responsive, always showing effort, they'll be rewarded. But what they don't see is that the world rarely chases what it already has. It chases what it can't get. The more they see you, the more they think they understand you. The more they think they understand you, the more they believe they can replace you. But mystery cannot be copied. Silence cannot be predicted. And distance real, intentional distance makes them reach, makes them wait, makes them work. That's the position you want to be in. Not the one begging for recognition, but the one whose time is a privilege, whose attention must be earned. Machiavelli never gave himself away. He made others prove they were worth the meeting, worth the message, worth the risk. Because he knew that power is not always about doing more. Sometimes it's about being less available, less explainable, less easy to hold. You do not have to be rude. You have to be rare. And when they ask why you don't reply, why you don't show up, why you've grown so distant, don't explain. Just smile. Because now they know what you've always known. The most powerful man in the room is not the one who shows up first. It's the one they're still waiting for, the one they can't quite reach. And the moment you become that man, the game stops being fair. It starts bending in your direction. The man who wins does not outwork his enemies. He outthinks them. The world is full of exhausted geniuses, overworked leaders, and brilliant minds, too busy surviving to ever truly rule. Machiavelli understood that effort, while admirable, is not strategic. In fact, it can be a distraction, a trap, because the more you do, the more they expect. The more you deliver, the more they demand. And somewhere between proving your worth and chasing their approval, you forget to ask the only question that matters. Is any of this actually moving me forward? Machiavelli saw men with strength, talent, and drive fall behind those with nothing but patience and cold calculation. He knew the truth. Energy means nothing without direction. Movement is not victory. Most people are busy reacting, responding, running from one task to the next, mistaking chaos for progress. But the man who pauses, who studies the board before moving, who sees 10 steps ahead instead of chasing what's in front of him, that man becomes inevitable. That man plays a different game. You were raised to believe the hardest worker wins. But if that were true, every labourer would be king. Every early riser would be rich. Every man who stayed late, kept quiet, and followed the rules would rule. But they don't. Because the game does not reward sweat. It rewards design. It rewards silence. It rewards those who think while others react. The loudest man in the room is often the weakest. The busiest man in the room is often the most controlled. But the one who does less and gets more is the one who truly understands how the world works. Machiavelli never raced. He waited. He let others run themselves into exhaustion, watched them burn out for the sake of visibility, then took what they built when they could no longer protect it. That is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the understanding that in a world full of workers, thinkers become kings. So stop measuring your days by what you did. Start measuring them by what you moved, what you shifted, what advantage you quietly set in motion while others were distracted. Let them keep chasing deadlines. You chase leverage. Let them keep proving themselves. You become the one they try to prove themselves to. Because power does not belong to the one who does the most. It belongs to the one who does the right thing once and never has to do it again. That is the law Machiavelli lived by. And once you live by it too, you'll see the truth. You don't need to run. You just need to watch where everyone else is running and choose a different direction. They handed you a script the moment you were born. Work hard, be humble, follow the rules, wait your turn, and you followed it because everyone else did too. You believed the lie because it was everywhere. In classrooms, in sermons, in tired faces, repeating the same mantras with broken spirits. But Machiavelli never followed that script. He burned it, because he knew it wasn't written to empower you, it was written to control you. To keep you quiet, obedient, predictable, a good worker, a loyal servant, a replaceable piece. And the more you believed in that script, the more power you handed away. They told you not to question, not to desire too much, not to want control. They said it was greedy, selfish, dangerous. But what's truly dangerous is a man who never questions why he's still struggling, still exhausted, still stuck in a life that feels borrowed. Machiavelli knew that no one hands you power out of kindness. You take it, not with rage, not with noise, but with precision, with silence, with refusal. You stop playing the role, you stop apologizing for wanting more, and you begin building your own script, one where your value is not measured by exhaustion, but by control, where you are not rewarded for suffering, but for moving strategically, where you don't wait for opportunity, you become it. This is the real game, not the one they advertise, not the one they teach, but the one that decides who rules and who begs, who sleeps peacefully and who dies, proving themselves. It begins with subtraction. Subtract the need to be liked, subtract the need to explain, subtract the addiction to applause, to movement, to busyness, and in that stillness, you'll hear something rare, your own clarity. The voice that was drowned out by obligation, now whispering one truth: you were never meant to live on your knees. You were meant to become the one they answer to, the one they watch in silence, the one they fear losing access to. But only if you're willing to stop chasing what they promised and start claiming what you've always had the right to own: your time, your energy, your direction. Machiavelli didn't win because he was ruthless. He won because he refused to be used. He didn't follow orders. He studied them, broke them, rewrote them. And if you want what they have, you must first destroy what they gave you. Burn the script, keep the lesson, then disappear. Let them wonder how you rose without permission. And when they finally understand, it will be too late. You'll already be untouchable. If you're done following their rules and ready to build quietly, move strategically, and live without begging, subscribe now to Dark Blue Psychology. New videos every week to help you dominate the game they never wanted you to understand.